your dog. It's a really normal reaction. I would say actually most dogs are reactive to some extent. Reactivity in its simplest form is just that. It is a reaction to a stimulus. It's a stimulus that they perceive and they feel some need to respond to. What we are struggling with is the overreaction, right? The, oh my gosh, that is not that big a deal. You don't need to be losing your doggy mind over this. So what we want to work on is more appropriate responses to things. So it's not that we don't want a reactive dog, because a non-reactive dog is dead. Every reaction is something. It's breathing, it's blinking, it's choosing not to react. Everything in some way is a reaction to that stimulus, because that's what makes us alive. That's what makes us a living creature that adapts to stimulus, that learns. So reactivity in and of itself is not something that's wrong, but it is them feeling that need for an overreaction. Where does that come from? Everybody always asks me that. They're like, are they scared? Are they aggressive? Where is it coming from? Why did this start? There's a million places that it could have come from. You were mentioning that it was fine and that it wasn't, right? And then you mentioned that your dog was 1.5 years old, and I said, okay, that makes sense. So it almost always happens around 1.5 years to 2 that it gets worse because they are hitting social maturity. It's totally fine. So you went through the adolescent phase, you made it, good work. That just means you're hitting social maturity now. So he's a mature adult dog, and he says, I don't need new friends. I don't know you, don't come near me. The same way we look at our known friend groups, and we don't necessarily go out in the world and want to say hi to everyone, but do you ever see like 2 little kids passing each other? They're like, oh my god, hi! Like they want to be friends, they go to the playground, they want to interact with each other. That's young dogs, that's dogs up until 1.5 years. And then they start wanting known social groups, they want their friends, they want dogs that they know and trust, that they can build a relationship with, but they don't want to meet new friends. And suddenly, they're being paraded around on a leash, a 6-foot leash that they are not happy about being trapped on, past another dog that they don't know, and they think they're going to have to interact with them. So then they blow up, right? They lose their mind and they say, get away from me, I don't know you, stay away, I don't want to be friends. And then we have this big overreaction. So I would say that's honestly the most common. I would say that's honestly the most common is when they're hitting that social maturity, that you see an overreactivity coming up, and it's just kind of that, I'm finding my place in the world, I'm feeling like I don't want to make friends, and I'm stuck on this leash, and I'm trapped here, and now I'm blowing up about it, because I've got all these big feelings I don't know how to deal with. So that one's really common. Fear is another one. So if for some reason they aren't super socially adept, right, maybe they don't have a lot of friends, it sounds like maybe that's more your case is that he doesn't have a ton of doggy friends, he didn't see other dogs very often, he's very frustrated by the one dog he's around. If they don't have a lot of doggy friends, they weren't super socialized as a puppy, that can look really mysterious, it can look scary when they see another dog and they say, I don't know what your intentions are, I don't know if you're going to come after me, I don't know if you're going to want to play, and I'm not going to like how you want to play. So they get very nervous about it. And then we put them on a 6-foot leash again. And dogs, as you all know, move a whole lot faster than we do. And so this reminds them that they're trapped there, and we've got our fight or flight response kicking in, but I know I can't flee. So suddenly I get really defensive. I say, get away, I don't trust you, get away from me. So that's another place that it's really common that it comes in, so from fear. Sometimes it can come in just because they're really excited. Some dogs just don't know that they can't greet every dog they see, and then they get frustrated by the 6-foot leash that they're stuck on. And they start just losing their mind out of frustration. Right? So there's a million places it can come from. And sometimes I might point them out to you. Sometimes I might say, that looks a little bit like he's frustrated right now, or that might look like he's feeling a little bit nervous. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much. So we're not going to spend forever trying to decipher what exactly they're feeling, because they can't tell me. I don't know. I can guess, but they don't know. I don't know. What I do know is what they're feeling is too big. It's too much. It doesn't feel good to lose my doggy mind, to lunge at the end of my leash and hit the end and choke myself and then be all out of breath and be all my stress hormones are spiked. That doesn't feel good, no matter where it came from. So our goal here is to help them feel better, is to help them find better coping mechanisms, to make that reaction not quite so big, something that they can cope with, that exists well in our daily life. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's reactivity. And there's a few other terms that you may have heard. Have any of you Googled things like about reactivity? You'd be like, what do I do if my dog's reactive? Yeah. And then you got sent down the rabbit hole of Google where some people said one thing, somebody else said something completely different. Yeah, it's fun. It's a good time. So one of the common terms that you may have seen is threshold. see this on Google? Have either of you heard the term
This was
threshold?
like 2 months ago before I found the Humane Society.
I'm glad you found that. Have you heard the term threshold? No?
Not in
Okay.
relation to that.
No, right. So the threshold, when we're talking about threshold, I like to use the bomb diagram here. It's very helpful, I think. The threshold is the moment before your dog explodes. So it's how close, maybe a lot of times we talk about it in distance, so maybe it's how close is that dog. So when they see a dog football field away, he's not losing his doggy mind. When they're across the street, we're losing our doggy mind. His threshold is that 50 feet, maybe. Threshold is just generally the moment before they explode, right? So that's why I like to draw the bomb here. Now, there's all of this stuff, right? Now, so we've got what lights my fuse. If the threshold is the moment before the bomb explodes, what lights my fuse? Well, that is your trigger. Now, you already mentioned that your dog has multiple triggers. Bikes. What about cars or scooters or skateboards? Anything that moves fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuzzy dogs.
It could be any.
Right.
Even bigger dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So lots of triggers. Your dog has lots of triggers. Joggers.
Could be anything.
Anything.
Anything that moves.
That moves.
And even if it's not moving, if she's never seen it before in her life, she's like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
That's not okay. Why do you exist?
Yeah.
I've never seen you here before. Why?
So your dog's got a lot of triggers. Your dog has a lot of things that lights her fuse.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. And we're gonna have to pay closer attention to her because she's going to be more susceptible to what we call trigger stacking them. So if the thing that lights your fuse is a trigger, and there's a dog walking across the street right now, and I'm doing my best to hold it together. They lit my fuse, but I'm not at my threshold yet. The dog is crossing the street, and then a bike whizzes by, and suddenly now my fuse is lit here because there was another light. My fuse is shorter. I'm closer to threshold. So despite having been able to handle the dog across the street and also maybe handle a bike passing me, I can't handle them together because it shortened my fuse. Okay, so that's what we're going to call trigger stacking. So you'll often hear me call that out in class, especially when we're working outside for you guys, because we'll be working along the road over here and there are cyclists and things that go by. And so you'll hear me call out, here's a trigger stack. And that's just letting you know that her fuse is about to get shorter. So when we're working on it, we have to adjust in some way. We have to say, I know that her fuse has got shorter and I need to help her make sure that we don't hit threshold, right? Once the bomb explodes, it's gone, right? There is no dog at the end of your leash. There is just a little doggy tornado at the end of your leash, a bomb that has exploded. No learning happens, right? Once we are here, they are just reacting. I'm sure you all have experienced this, where they are just losing their doggy mind and nothing gets through to them and you just have to drag them through it and get out of it, right? Once we are here, there is no learning happening. So our goal is never to be here. You're gonna get there. Everyone's gonna explode at least a few times in class. But our goal is to avoid that, okay? All of our work, all of our training happens right here. So learning happens between the trigger and the threshold. And I know a lot of you are thinking that's a very small window. And it is. It's a very small window. So our first step is making that window larger. We have to make that window larger so we have more time to learn. And eventually we don't have a bomb at the end of it, right? We just have a very long fuse. Everyone's got a bomb at the end of their fuse. Let's face it, I have a bomb at the end of my fuse. And it depends on the day how long that fuse is.
Yep.
Same for our dogs.
Yep.
So that's the vocabulary I want you to understand is understand reactivity. What we mean by when we say that, it means you're having a big overreaction. The threshold is the moment before that reaction. So if I'm watching you training while we're working in class and I say, I think you're at threshold, that means we need to back up. All right, we don't need to keep pushing this right now because we don't want to have an explosion. We're not learning anymore if we explode. And then we've got the trigger. So here's a trigger, or oh, there's a trigger stack. That means there's multiple things happening and you've got less time to work on it. Okay? Any questions about that so far?
How long is the average refractory period after you've exploded to
That is a great question.
have fuse again?
That is a very good question. It depends on the dog, it depends on the day. Depends on what we are able to do to help them. And so we will be learning some recovery techniques because yes, one of our first steps is making this fuse longer. The other first step is shortening that recovery time, is how long until we can get back to work. That's the other reason we're gonna try and avoid it, because it does take long for some dogs to recover.
Yeah.
We're gonna pay attention to it and we'll just see what helps and what doesn't. Sniffing is one of the best ways to bring them back down to baseline. So we'll do a lot of scatter feeding, a lot of tossing treats on the ground, things like that to try and bring them back to that baseline. It lowers the cortisol levels in their brain. So it's going to help them recover more quickly. Sometimes we say, take them outside, go take for a little sniff break, right? Go sniff some trees or something, see if they can come back in. And some dogs honestly will have a day where they just need to leave early. If they absolutely just keep exploding, it's never a bad idea to just say, today's not a good day. That's fine, because it's better than rehearsing the wrong behavior, right? That is the hardest part about this, is that practice makes perfect. So even though no learning is happening after threshold, after we explode, we are ingraining patterns of neural pathways in our brain every time we act, right? So even though they are not making a conscious choice after they explode, their brain is saying, this is how I respond to that stimulus. And so that neural pathway gets deeper. Think of it like a river cutting into stone, right? Every time we go that way, it gets a little deeper, and every drop of water is a little bit more easily sliding into that. So that is the other reason we have to avoid rehearsal whenever possible. We're trying to get ahead of this. We don't want them to react, because every time they do, it becomes more likely to happen again. Okay? Question?
No, I'm good.